Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Commend Journey podcast. I am your host, Michael Diamond. Great to be back with you today on the show. We have an exciting person and topic to talk about. So what I'm going to do is what I always do on the Commend Journey podcast and let the guests introduce themselves so that way I don't get their name wrong. And so who do we have with us today?
Yeah, hi, Michael. I'm Paul Wilson. I'm the Director of Technical Services for Gallagher, based out of our offices in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been with Gallagher for about 10 years now. Came across from the IT industry prior to that and have had a couple of different roles through my time with Gallagher, starting off at our head office in Hamilton, New Zealand, where I started with the tech support team, quickly moved on through into our engineering support services, and about 5 years ago came across to the US to support the US team, where I've finally landed here looking after our technical support and training teams.
Fantastic, Paul. I appreciate you joining us. Hopefully you're finding the Americas a nice place to visit and live for the past few years. We appreciate having you here. I think I want to start today's discussion and give listeners here who maybe have not run into Gallagher locally here in the States just an overview of what the company is and what you specialize in.
So yeah, Gallagher started about 85 years ago in 1938, and we actually established with the electric fence. So the company was originally set up by Bill Gallagher Sr., and it really started with a horse, of all things. The horse was called Joe, and it used to come around on the farm, and back then, cars were a pretty hot commodity. Not many people had them, and those that did, sort of like to look after them. And this horse kept coming around and actually scratching its behind on the fender of the vehicle. So Bill Senior decided that wasn't a thing that we could sustain for very long. So they came up with the idea of getting a magneto and setting up a band which would release and basically wind the magneto if the chassis got rocked. So they set this thing up, armed it, and went and crept around waiting for the horse to come around. And they never did see the horse come around the front of the yard. They left it armed overnight. The next morning, they came out and found that the rubber band had released and the magneto had fired, and they couldn't get the horse to come round to the front side of the house after that, let alone go close to the car. And that was pretty much the start of the idea of the electric fence. So fast forward through, a number of years to 1981, and a company in New Zealand started called Cardex, and they were a security company doing, creating access control predominantly for fuel pumps and fuel systems. And they were, again, fast forward another few years down the track, they were actually acquired by Gallagher, who around about 1981 had started, looking at the animal management fence, which we call our other business, animal management, looking after the agriculture side, had started a security division with the fencing, and that really sprung into action. Sorry, I got my date wrong there. It was 1988 that sprung into action out of South Africa, actually. Some needs that came out of there for game fencing. And that's where we started our security division, picked up Cardex and merged that into the larger company in 2000, and then we branded it all together in 2011 as Gallagher Security. And that's where we kicked off as a global brand. And in 2013, we set up our distribution and logistics center in Kansas City, which is where we have our warehousing and that sort of facility. And then in 2023, we launched our security office in Atlanta, where we've got our tech support and training team set up. We also have our marketing team here and a couple of the other support services operating out of this office in Atlanta.
Fantastic. Okay, so I guess the next question for me really is what does Gallagher do that separates itself from other players in the industry? What is it? Why do people choose Gallagher versus some of the other products or services that are out there?
We have a really, really unique offering, as you heard from the background. Starting with the security around fencing, and then moving into access control from a really different angle. What we have now is a really sophisticated solution, which is a security solution. It's not just access control in the traditional sense, and that we cover a curb to core philosophy. So baked into the whole product, we can cover from the perimeter with our perimeter sensors and devices, all the way through your traditional access control, moving into baked-in intrusion as part of that core thing, with a cybersecurity event. We like to call it the security of security, designed into that whole process. So we have this really unique offering that nobody else in the market provides. And then couple that with some of the things that we've done as we've matured and grown as a product, where because we've been a customer-focused and customer-driven development team, we've baked in a number of needs and requirements into the system, which includes a lot of things that fit really well into a highly regulated organizations and industries. So we have a lot of these baked in health and safety and compliance capabilities that you don't need to put add-ons or other integrations to make them sort of work. They're part of the core product.
Fascinating. Okay, so I think the natural follow-up to that is give me some examples of what you've done.
Globally, we've done really, really well in the mining and that sort of industries. We have a number of large players right throughout Australasia and the Americas in that space. We've got a number of key players in critical infrastructure, where we have even a couple of case studies up on our website in Queensland and back in our homeland of New Zealand. We also, have a really, really strong presence across education. That's K through 12 and higher ed. And again, globally, we have some great case studies up on our site, where we've got King's College London, University College London. There's some of the universities throughout Australia, but we also have some more localized case studies there with Harrisburg School. Great story about our system deploying there and how our features help protect them from an active shooter situation, with a really positive outcome, which was really nice to have included in that, and be able to protect the students and staff in that kind of situation.
Wonderful. Okay. So I'm certain that a lot of these case studies weren't just a one-size-fits-all packaging for Gallagher. I'm certain of it. So when a customer approaches you with a custom or more customized solution need, what's Gallagher's process for breaking that challenge down and then finding a way to get to a finish line?
Yeah, so it's a fantastic question, Michael. We take a very customer driven approach, and because our product is so large and can fit into so many different components, we really like to sit down with our end users and with the integrator and look at what the actual business requirements are of that customer, regardless of the vertical, and really understand what it is that they do as a business, and then try to see where we can, where our starting point is. It may be that they're coming to us looking for a perimeter solution, or they might be looking for, just a very simple access control to protect some basic elements, or even from an intrusion point of view. And we'll have that discussion, look at their overall needs, and then really tailor, based on what their requirements are, what capabilities within our product, will work. And that also is where we like to tie up, and work with our partners, such as Commend, and really look at the way that we integrate with our partners. We can take a more holistic approach with our customers, by looking at where our integrations can work to aid the overall solution, and to take a look at not just the actual application of getting through a door or arming an alarm zone or anything like that, but how we can use integrations with our partners to look at the business back-end systems as well. Things like our competencies, where we can actually say, hey, we can tie in reminders, we can tie things to, do you have a valid driver's license? Is this certification up to date? Before you can do and perform certain actions.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So I was perusing one of the multitudes of case studies that the site shows, which is fantastic for anybody that's going to go out and check out Gallagher's website. You're going to find an absolute bevy of great case studies to take a look at. I was drawn to Potash Corp for a couple of different reasons. That's sort of an interesting case study in the fact that they're a fertilizer company, so people might not necessarily think of them as your average everyday corporate building. Can you tell me a little bit more about that specific solution?
Yeah, so they came to us through an integrator that had been working closely with them for a while, and they were really looking for a way to manage their safety, their health and safety operations within the actual chemical factory. And if anybody's familiar with fertilizer, there's a few elements that go into making fertilizer that aren't that nice for people to be around while it's in that factory process. So they were really looking for ways to improve the health and safety, but also to integrate with some of their other platforms and their back end systems. So we really got introduced to them as that capability, that glue that could bind a lot of those things together, while also providing them with that access control platform. So we utilized our lockdown capabilities, our health and safety features, as I mentioned earlier, things like competencies to make sure people had valid certifications, they'd done their health and safety inspections, they'd done their induction videos before they could go into some of those factory areas. And we also tied that in with Active Directory integration, so tying into their Active Directory and providing their IT teams the ability to say, hey, if they're a member of this user group within Active Directory, that they can get certain access rights by default based on their role, which really helped them streamline between the two. And they were slightly more unique in that they ran a partner operation, which was right next door in the same facilities, and they wanted to link the two systems together. So we were able to provide them that capability to link to that other platform, that other organization, and tie the health and safety components of that together. So if an evacuation was triggered at either site, they were able to automatically trigger the right responses on the sister site. So it was a really interesting environment. And they have since grown up into a much larger organization, so that company still exists. They're just not branded under that same brand name, but they've been enveloped into a much bigger organization who have also adopted Gallagher as their platform moving forward.
Oh, fantastic. That's great for everybody involved, right? Customers able to grow. It looks from the case study here, you were also able to bring the cost per door for the access control down, which I'm sure they appreciated.
That's one of the benefits of our solution is, the way our architecture is built, because you're not dealing with, with multiple pieces of hardware trying to perform different functions. So we don't have a panel for intrusion, and then that sits alongside a panel for the access control. We have a single set of hardware which performs both functions, and also controls the perimeter fences and sensors. So the architecture that we bring to the table, and the flexibility within that architecture, allows you to really reduce the cost of deploying the hardware out there in the field. Combine that with the other capabilities that we've got, and we can really impact the return on investment that you get across the board. And our health and safety capabilities and our things like managing what we call regulated zones, for example, where you manage people coming in on shift. For example, let's say they need to have a 10-hour cool down after they've been on shift for 10 hours. Those types of capabilities within the system also mean that you can reduce the overall operational cost by making sure that you're getting those things automated, and you're not having to manually process or manage those capabilities within another system.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful tool for people looking for a solution where they can say it isn't a one size fits all situation, and we can come to a partner like Gallagher who can work with various partners around the industry. We can get the solution that we need and still utilize the equipment we would prefer to utilize. Or if we don't have a specific access control vendor picked out, we can work through Gallagher to find an approved solution or use something that they've created.
Yeah, I mean, again, so that's the beauty of the platform, right? If you come to us with a need for, let's say, I'll use perimeter as an example. we can take that and provide that solution and tie into existing platforms and services that might be within the organization. But once they have our architecture in place, if they wanted to expand, let's say they didn't have a fully fledged out intrusion package, but they put our perimeter system in place, or they getting to the point that their system has aged out and they're looking for a replacement system on the intrusion side, it's very simple for them to start to utilize our capabilities within that, because they don't have to purchase new hardware or replace software or anything like that. They just turn the functionality on and extend the system. So it makes it a really seamless transition, and then it adds a lot of functionality as they do that.
Absolutely. All right. So as we get towards the wrap up question, the one I prefer to ask is, from your perspective, from maybe the things that Gallagher is working in now, what's the market and the situation look like for you 5 years from now? Where are the emerging portions of the product that you're going to be searching out? And if I can, I will congratulate you on a release of 8.90 today, as of this recording, for Command Center. So you can speak on that if you'd like a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So the 5-year question is always an interesting one. We quite often get asked, where do we see things being in 5 years? But if anybody's been in the technology industry for any length of time, you know that what the world will look like in 5 years can be dramatically different to what you think it might look like. As the iPhone sort of presented to a number of our competitors not that many years ago, we definitely see online and cloud services as being a big part of the future of security systems and security platforms, but also in a hybrid sense. There's security is, by its nature, you don't want it sitting out there exposed. So having the ability to have that hybrid kind of environment where if you need an air-gapped system, you can have that high-security air-gapped environment, but you can also take advantage of the concepts of that cloud computing environment, right? Which traditionally in the security industry, we've been a little bit slow at adopting. I don't see the idea of a credential or something like that going away, but I definitely see frictionless entry as being a big deal. We've already seen with our Bluetooth credentials and our Bluetooth technology, a swing towards that, the flexibility and ease of use that provides, not having to carry a physical card around with you. So we're definitely seeing a trend towards that. And from a Gallagher perspective as well, there's a little bit more on the making it seamless and much friendlier user experience to be able to navigate a system. You shouldn't feel like you're navigating an access control platform or having to work hard to get access. It should, be for an end user a straightforward experience. They shouldn't be thinking about security existing. They should be able to just do their job. And so a lot of our focus is around providing that kind of environment for our end users, so that security just does its thing and becomes invisible in the background.
Do you want to let the folks know about 8.9 Command Center and sort of what it offers?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are excited to announce that we are releasing 8.90, so Command Center 8.90, and there's a couple of interesting enhancements that we've made there. One of the big ones is actually a integration where we're supporting an integration with IDEMIA and that frictionless entry that we were talking about, which is their Vision Pass. But we've made some exciting enhancements to the security of security as well, where we have a security health check tool, and we've made some great enhancements to that. And what that does is that's something that a integrator or an end user can actually just run on their system, and it gives you a score, a bit like a credit score, of how secure your system deployment is and where the gaps might be that you need to address, which is a fantastic tool for assessing, where you are and where you need to go to help completely secure from a cybersecurity standpoint and a physical security standpoint your environment. We've also made some interesting enhancements from our intrusion point of view, and we've now bolstered our IP alarm transmission capabilities for North America. So we have an update to the DCI-9 protocol that we're using for getting out to contact ID and central stations, which is a fantastic improvement there, as well as increasing the capabilities that we have on our web client. And I mentioned that that's that that extending the ability out into those types of services. So we have got a web client that's launched there, and that's being added to all the time. 8.90 brings some really exciting functions there. And for our integration partners, we've updated our really good stack of REST APIs with an even easier and more flexible licensing model, and some even more capabilities exposed through that API stack. So that's a great capability there for our integrators that are looking to tie in with us.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I appreciate you coming on the Commend Journey podcast and sharing your part of the journey with us. I would say is if you'd like to let the listeners know where they can find you and contact you if you have any questions about what they've heard today, please let us know.
If anybody wants to get a hold of me or has any questions about the product, the first place to go is our website, which is security.gallagher.com. And on that site, there's a whole trove of interesting information and data. And they can also feel free to reach out directly to me at gettrained@gallagher.com.
Well, fantastic. I want to thank you again and look forward to seeing what Gallagher offers us in the next months and years.
Appreciate it, Michael, and thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely.